Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Davina. So we were trying to talk about the reason why we keep things and how we keep things in our job puzzles. When you go to your living room or bedroom, the way we keep things. When you go to your kitchen cabinet, there are a lot of things that we do keep them there, but we keep them in different compartments. So where you keep your place, I'm sure definitely you will have your bowls and other things that will put you closer to that place. And where you have your cutlery sets, I'm sure you might as well have your plate closer to your cutlery set because normally we use them together. So we realized yesterday that we do classify organisms based on their shared characteristics or their common features. So even in your bag or trunk, when you are organizing your wear, that's how you classify them. If you are the type that have special wear for check service and programs, you keep them in a different part of the wardrobe or a different section of it, whilst the casual ones are kept in a different side of the wardrobe or the different side of the house. And slippers will be at a particular place, then shoes or let me say sneakers will be at one side, then loafers and the rest will be at a particular side. So in our daily activities, we do classify things, we do keep things together, and we use shared characteristics either knowingly or unknowingly, intentionally and unintentionally. We do group things based on some similarities that we foresee in sections. So today we are coming to use that same idea we use for classifying things to project into how we classify lower organisms. So we are looking at classification of living organisms, but particularly we are not looking at the lower organisms, so the unicellular organisms. Later in year two, going to year three, we will talk about some other higher or larger organisms. So let's recount our idea. Anything you remember about classification that we talked about yesterday night? Anything you remember? I'll be happy if one of you can mute your microphone and talk to us. Anything you remember concerning what we talked about yesterday? Then we just move on because of network issues. We couldn't talk much yesterday night, but today we'll try and finish everything now. And Sunday, God willing, we will talk about amoeba, its life structure, and its life processes. So anyone that is ready, you can unmute your microphone. Anything you remember about the feature classification, the importance of it, or if you also read the material that I gave, you should know the things that we consider while classifying organisms and the types of classification we will consider in this our syllabus. So I invite anyone that is ready to talk.
Taxonomy is the branch of biology that helps taxonomists to name and classify organisms based on their characteristics.
Okay, thank you very much. You can mute yourself. So those who couldn't hear Stephen very well, he said taxonomy is a branch of science that is to classify organisms based on the shared characteristics. So he tried to define what taxonomies do. And taxonomy is a branch of science that deals with classifying organisms or sorting them out based on their characteristics. And that also defines classification. If taxonomy is the act of classifying, then classification is a sorting out of organisms into their formal groups. So formal, not formal, like it's formatting, informal, formal. So like official groups based on characteristics. That is what we refer to as classification. So any importance of it. So yesterday night I asked you why you keep things in your chop balls organized. While in your room you keep some things closer to the bed, some are around the locker, some are around where if you have a TV set in your room, not in the home, you know where you keep some of these things. So there's some things you keep on the TV stand. I'm sure the remote will always be around the TV stand. Others will like to leave it in the sofa because they actually, so at least it should be somewhere around these places. That is how we classify things. So people try to give us the importance of why we do classify things. So someone can just say class one or two, just a nice statement of very proactive. And I think another lady, I think Jessie, yeah, that was the person that was also very interactive yesterday. So today, anyone that would like to open the microphone, if your environment is very, very cool or not that noisy, you can open up your microphone and talk to us. Then the reason why you keep things in your local assets, in your chalkboards or trunking on campus accesses, and how you classify things in your room. I think your hand is up. Let me check for that person. Yeah, divine try. Yeah, divine help us. Importance of classification.
We say for easy identification.
Yes, as simple as that. So at least the first thing that must come to mind is for easy identification. Why do we always keep the remote closer to uh, our table, that is the TV stand, or closer also to the sofa or let me say the bedside, if you have it in the bedroom? It's for easy identification. So once you are looking for the remote, it's either on the TV stand, or maybe someone might have left around the sofa. So that once you are looking for it, you know where to go for it. Thank you very much. Any other importance of classifying organisms or classifying things? So we are using general ways of classification. Then we can apply it in biological studies. So if I try just spoke, Stephen has spoken tonight, any other person on the line who is willing to talk to us. Importance of classifying or why you keep things organized, either in your room or in the way you keep things. Yeah. And that is that physical talk. Yeah, Harry also watching.
So please, I just joined. Are you asking a question on the importance of?
Yes, please. The importance of classification. Why you do classify things or you organize things?
For storage and easy retrieval of information.
Yes, as simple as that. So thank you very much. So for storage and easy retrieval of information. So scientists also do classify organisms so that once you know we are talking about this specific organism, like for example, we are talking about insects, you know their general characteristics. So if once I say what I am having in front of it is an insect, you can just close up with your eyes and you can state the general characteristics of insect. And if not all, most of them will fit. Even all of them must fit that particular organism. Since you are saying is an insect, so for easy retrieval, you know how you pack your things in your bag or in your wardrobe. Once you are looking for a hoodie, you know where you keep your hoodies. I'm sure now because of the weather, the hoodies will be closer to your to where you can easily have access to it. But prior to that, in the hot time, in the hot sunny seasons of in the summer, they were kept somewhere. But now we are entering the winter in Ghana here, the wet season. Let me say that the Hamatan season, you know where you can easily get access to those your hoodies and some other things that you do to battle this cold weather. So that is for easy retrieval and also have access to the information that you store. Thank you very much, Harriet. Any other reason why we do classify things and organisms? Some of them can be applied in biology. So those that are not applied, I will try and make a better addition to it. So reason for classification of organisms. So for easy identification, there's another one that is so simple. Yes, Stephen, thank you very much.
It helps scientists to predict the behavior of an organism.
It helps scientists to
Predict the behavior of one organism.
Okay, to predict the behavior of an organism. So based on the groupings of organisms, we know that there's an insect, there's a other maybe Pictoptera as an insect. So based on this, we are also able to say a lot of things about that particular organism. Help us to predict their behavior. Also, it the communication between scientists. So I recount a story, or let me say something that happened really when I was referring to frog in the Chi dialect. The Bono and something are very different. Some will say frog, some will say upon. So they couldn't identify the two. So even within Ghana here, even within the Akan language, we have different ways of calling the frog. Then what about going to Nigeria, the Igbo, Yoruba, and the rest? So it means we can communicate when we are on the same board with someone who doesn't know actually, someone who doesn't know actually. So the reason is once we have a common name for it, we will be able to talk about. So we say Pufo regularis, that is a tool that we will learn about later in our space. So I'm saying regularis, if you're a Gagari man, a Afro woman, someone from South Africa, India, Spain, we all know Pufo regularis will refer to a tool that we can all refer to. So for easy communication, once things are organized, you can just communicate. So it's just easy communication. And I also told you the first week that you went to school, you couldn't identify who was your classmate and who is not supposed to be in that class because the class were organized. So when someone from a different class enters your class, you might assume that person is a student in that class. But after a month, you now have become acclimatized. You know your next should I say neighbor, or the student that sits next to you, whoever sits here or who sits there. So at that time you were organized. So when a new person enters the class, you can fake that person and know you are not in this class, or you are rather a late comer or a late arrival student. So that is why, because you've been able to organize yourself, you've been classifying yourself, then if a new person enters, you can fake that person out. Likewise, classification also helps us to identify new species or new organisms when they arrive. Scientists have the understanding that there are some organisms that still we have not been able to identify them properly. So when such an organism evolve or we do see them, we should be able to identify that this one is it's not in our taxonomy or our classification that we've done already. So that is one important of classification. So if you walk to a town that you are a new person, especially in the villages or smaller towns, that they all know themselves. When a new person, a stranger enters, they know that you're a stranger. So they'll be watching you just to get to know much about you. But if you are walking across the street of an urban center, no one cares about you because every now, every day, they see a lot of people. That is why when they are in their room, or let me say their residence, they back when you come closer. But when they are in town, they just walk out because they know that you are not in their home. They are likely to expect new people. So those that are around so normally they do not back unless you come close to their territory. So once a new person comes, we should be able to identify and they will classification that we not talk about as a different view. It also help us to know evolution. Talk about that yesterday to know evolutionary trends of organisms. So if there's any question you can ask, if not, we will start our lesson again today. I'm waiting for just some 30 seconds or a minute. If there's no hand, I'll continue on the presentation. So now that we've known what taxonomy is and classification is and the importance, let us dive into it. So we will say the father of classification will be Aristotle because he is the person that tried to build a formal way of classifying organisms. But although that was the first, but that wasn't the best. Later I realized that it was not that comprehensive. Organisms were not being given a better classification of the features based on Aristotle's formula. So he tried to clarify organisms based on their differences and similarities. So their characteristics that just show over there. So for example, plants could be just shrubs and trees. Organisms like animals, how they walk, how they fly, and some other techniques. These were the superficial change that. Okay, thank you very much, Divanchra. Okay, so that is another importance of classification. Very, very good. Later, I will just go there and others can have a look at it. Thank you very much, Divine. So Aristotle in 384 to 322 BC, that was the time that he lived, and he was a Greek philosopher and naturalist that tried to classify organisms based on their shared similarities or characteristics and their differences. So this system was used for 2,000 years before later another one by a Swedish botanist. His name is Carolus Linnaeus, and his system is what largely we do use for classification. And he has to his credit what we call the binomial nomenclature or binomial system of nomenclature, whereby organisms are given a two distinctive Latin name, that is from the genus name and their species, which is also called a specific epithet. So if you say mango, someone will say Magnifera indica, rice will be Oryza sativa, then we have Alioxypa, sativa for Odum, and Garlic, respectively. So each organism will have two names, but later I realized others will have three because of their subspecies. But at least it is two for most, or let me say all. There's some few sessions that might have three as subspecies. But that is what Carolus Linnaeus wrote. So what we mentioned has also given another. So you can be checking the comment section for some importance of the biology. So later I will show it on the screen for those who watch the recording later as I do. So that is Aristotle. I would say the father or grandfather of classification. He brought a very good system as at that time for 2,000 years. But later Carolus tried to build up on it and make it more better and very distinctive when we are talking about organisms. So taxonomy is a branch of science you know already that deals with classifying organisms. So that's taxonomy. And taxa refers to the groups. So taxonomy is the act or the science of studying about classification, sorting organisms into their formal group based on their characteristics and differences. And also taxa are the various groups. So I remember I asked a question yesterday that how many kingdoms do we have? So the kingdoms we will later find out how many we have. But when we talk about the taxa, the different divisions, we realize it was seven. We also dive into it, which was the kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. That is so. At every taxa, we have different divisions and subdivisions, which we will talk about very shortly. So Aristotle did a very great pioneering work that lasted for 2,000 years, and that was it. Okay, I beg Jacqueline to us give us another answer. So please, you can be taking notes from the comment section. Today you're doing very well. Keep on posting, and let's make sure we always get updated with information. So the taxa is a singular, it's called a taxon. So the taxa is plural. When we say taxon, refer to what? So kingdom is a taxon. A kingdom and phylum are taxa. So we start from kingdom, which is very broad in general. Then, okay, can someone help us? I just mentioned that. So we have seven taxa. Can someone help us make all the taxa in a hierarchical order? It's a very example. So maybe some examination you might be asked the first question, how to hierarchically from top to bottom mention the seven taxa as proposed by Carolus Linnaeus. Anyone who's ready can do that for you. are mentioning it in order from the top to the bottom. The seven taxa in Carolus. You want to raise your hand up on the top to answer the question? Okay, yeah,
Kingdom.
Okay.
Phylum.
Good.
Class. Order. Family. Genus and species.
Very good. So someone can do as a benefit of typing it in the comment section, and then someone should do that. Someone should just type it in order. So our sister just said we have a kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. So that is in order from the highest to the lowest. So the point is the general to specific. The more general we are, the more organism we have there, and the less differences. At the kingdom side, we have a whole lot of organisms, like all the organisms in the world, very good. That's the quantity. It's a long time I saw you online. So if you're online, check the comment section for some good information that you are bringing. So time for being very, very interactive. So we have Harriet has also done a perfect job, very good. She added something. So instead of division, could be phylum. Normally, we refer to phylum in plants as division. So anytime you hear division, the same as phylum, but particularly that must tell you that organism is a plant or is a kingdom plant. Thank you very much. Yeah. So these organism in kingdom are very broad. So it's like when we group all the organism in the world, we can have five different kingdoms. So everything in the world, living thing, grouping them into five. Then we will have billions, trillions, and quintillions, and the rest of organisms over there. So at the kingdom side, we have a lot of organisms there, larger number, but their similarities is very, very superficial, very, very light. As we move down the group, so this will be like periodic chemistry. So if you haven't done that by now, you should have set down periodic chemistry in form one. But you don't know the change of syllables where it is marked. So as you move down the taxa, we increase similarity and we decrease the quantity. So the more similar or alike they begin to look like, the smaller the number it becomes. So at the general side, that is the kingdom, we have a lot of organisms. As we move down, the organism divide because we are giving them a lot of groups down. Then at the species level, they are lower as compared to the other higher ranks. Then the similarities are very, very closer to the point that we say species, they can even have a fertile breeding. They can interbreed, they have a fertile organisms because they are the same species. So that is the system of classification. So Linnaeus, Carolus Linnaeus is considered the father of modern. Listen to it well. He is considered as the father of modern classification, and the person that rather make a public spectacle of classification was Aristotle in 382 to 84 to 322 BC. So the father of modern classification, what we are using right now, was instituted by the Swedish botanist and physician Carolus Linnaeus. Sometimes we can call him Carl. So either Carolus Linnaeus or Carl Linnaeus, but I prefer the Carolus. That is what normally we do refer to him as. So Linnaeus is considered the father of modern classification. So simple organisms, like other living things, are classified using variety of characteristics. So the way we classify larger organisms is the same way we classify the lower ones. But right now, we will be talking about the shell organisms. That's why the subtopic says classification of lower organisms. But the same criteria used to classify your attire or garment is the same way used to classify your books. So I'm sure air science books will have a particular place that we give them because usually we'll be taking them most of it to class. Textbooks will have their section in their chalkboard or locker. So at least we live an organized life. We know where to find whichever thing that we want to find. So lower living organisms, example are prokaryotes, that is in the kingdom bacteria, prototypes such as amoeba, and we can talk about the fungi. So another kingdom fungi, some are unicellular, some are also multicellular. So that is like a thread between unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. So under the prokaryote and prototypes, they are all unicellular organisms, which mostly exist as a single cell. Now, if there's a question that you can ask, let me use this time to get to the message section so that we will get to see whatever thing that people have been sharing on the message side. Okay, so someone said, okay, so these are the information that people have been sharing with us. Thank you very much. Okay, there are some two hands up. Let me check those hands and we can talk. So we have the kingdom, the phylum as said over there. Okay, I think Harriet, your hand is up, so you can talk to us.
Fair.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, talk to us. If that's Harriet.
Sir, can you differentiate between the works of Aristotle and Linnaeus? Again,
Okay.
for me.
Okay, thank you very much. So Aristotle was the one that first started classification, and he just used superficial characteristics. So I said, for example, how organisms move. That's how he used to classify plants. So organisms that walk, they were in one group. Those that could fly, those that could swim, and those that could do whatsoever that they were able to do. And plants too were grouped basically based on are you a herbaceous plant or you are not herbaceous? Are you a shrub? Or that's the smaller tree, let me say it about it that way, or you are a tree. So you see, he tried to classify, but it was not so much into details. So it was just superficial way of classifying. You see, for instance, like now, when you look at your child picture, you see that hey, sometimes some movies that we were watching in 2000s and others, you look at the picture quality and the pixels. Was it this kind of movie that we used to enjoy? Now, if you give it to you, you might not even watch because the machine is too poor. Now we have first we have it just 240 pixels. Now we have up to 4K, 80, and the rest. First, we were thinking that 1080 pixels was the best. Now we are getting 4K, very, very high resolution. That becomes better. So that is we are building upon technology. So that was a wrong way of classifying organisms. Then this Carolus Linnaeus trying to bring a very simple and a very intensive way of classifying organisms. So that was incorporated back then. Main point is how organisms know. Now, are all organisms that fly the same? Yes, it could be a bird, but a bird maybe a fowl and an eagle, they look very, very different. There should be another class that will differentiate them. So Carolus brought in as a cell okay, let's group organisms, but not just by their physical or how they move or whatever. Let's look at a lot of things. So we have a kingdom. Then he brought all the tasks that we have here, the kingdom, the phylum, but Aristotle didn't have all of these things. So this man made a very great system that even as at now in our modern world, no one has been able to bring another one that can shadow and Carolus Linnaeus. So you can take time and read a little bit about that, but basically that was our Aristotle classification. And Carolus also brought two parts. Yeah. Someone also brought something over there, very, very important. I don't want to information. I think that was right from the mindset. Okay, thank you very much. I think that's simply the express what I'm talking about. So tonight you are doing pretty well. Okay, so let's continue. Now, before we classify organisms, there are factors that we have to check before we can classify organisms. And what are those things that we would like to check? Okay, Kirsty Akosa, I think you're joined today. I think Kirsty, you joined the group today and you are here on the meeting. You really have it. Kirsty, talk to us. If your hand is up, I've called you. Salamat Tahir, your hand is up. You can talk. Ali Maria, your hand is up. It is not coincidence. You can go ahead. Okay, I think it was all mistakes. So if you want to talk, you raise up your hand and I'll call you. So those that join for the very first time, that is how we do communicate over here. So factors used in classifying organisms. When we say morphology, so we have morphology. You are going to explain these things because you learn branches of biology, and I'm sure in our various schools, teachers will talk about these things. So morphology, we have physiology. Anatomy is not here, so it means that morphology will be taking part of anatomy, and you're little bit. Then we have genetic information, ecological information, and evolutionary relationship. Though you can read from my screen, but when I call you, you give a better definition or explanation of what you can see from my screen. So when we say factors used in classifying a simple or low organism, one factor we can consider is morphology. So anyone that is ready, you can raise up your hand. I will invite you. You explain what morphology is and how you think morphology will be used as a factor in classifying organisms. Yeah, hand is up. Okay, let me call Harriet. Because Stephen has spoken, Harriet you has spoken. So Harriet, your name comes first. You can take them off. Hello.
What is understood? The physical characteristic. So the physical characteristic could be the legs. Let's take birds for instance. So the birds they have feathers. So when you take birds and mammals, you can see their differences. Where mammals have fur and birds have feathers. So that you can group them with those features. And then the internal structure could be, let's say, their digestive systems. When you take the birds, those are the monogastrics. Let's take that. You can see that they don't have those chambers, those 4 chambers, like the ruminants, the cow and the goat and those stuff. I think that's what I have in mind.
Oh, wow. That is so good. That's so good. You really done well. Any other one? Any other person to add that? Stephen, your hand was up. Do you want to add something up to that? Or you want to tackle the next one? Whatever your choice is. Stephen, if your hand is still
I'm defining morphology.
okay, very good. Define.
Morphology is the study of form and structure of a system, whether in language or biology, of a scientific domain.
Oh, okay, very good. So it's a general definition that we give because you brought something else. Because English also have morphology and the rest. So in biology, you will take that part of. So in biology, it's just talking about the external features of the organism. But a dictionary definition or a general definition will cover all that you say. But in the frame of biology, you will take that side out. That is the external characteristics of an organism. So it will be the form and status of the organism. Okay, my question was, we are saying factors that we use to classify simple or lower organisms, and we have these are the factors. So what do we consider before classifying organism? We can consider their morphology, as you can see on my screen. We can consider their physiology, as you can see now. You can consider their genetic information, as you can see over here, or ecological information, or their evolutionary relationship. And I want us to explain, so not just about reading. So you can refer to my screen here. You have this document given to you last week, so you can just refer to it and explain. So I've forgotten was it Divine Chair? Someone just explained something there. I think Stephen also came. Sorry, I forgot your name short. So our sister tried to explain that morphology. Stephen explained morphology, that is the general characteristics of organism, so the external features of an organism. And our sister, whether Dimancha or whoever that person was trying to explain to us, like looking at animals like the bird and the ruminants, like the cow, the goat, and the sheep. You see, they're looking at their chambers. You see that the monogastric, that is the bird. Okay, I think you're waiting for the very first time since I'm going too fast. Okay, let me slow down for some time. So she was saying that the birds, which are monogastric, looking at their alimentary canal, it differs from that of the ruminant. So we can use that to differentiate them into monogastrics and let me say mammals. So okay, although they are all mammals, but we can differentiate them later. That okay, these are okay. Even the birds are in the class A's. So birds are in the class A's. And even among the mammals, some of us also have one stomach, like we the humans. We are also monogastric. We are not ruminants. We don't have 4 chambers. So that is how we can classify organisms. And based on the external features, we the mammals, we have fur or a hair on our head. But the birds, they have feathers and they have scales on their feet. So they are put in class apes, while we are kept in class mammalia. Others are in class reptilia, others are in amphibia, and the rest. So that is based on the external, what we do see outside. So this was trying to explain to us that we look at their characteristics. And one thing that brings a characteristic feature is their appearance, either the external or the internal appearance. So morphology is just like the external view, the macroscopic view of an organism, its features and structures. So it could be both internal and external, and that is why we talk about morphology. So the color of the eye could be an example. Let me say the size of the thing and the structure that it has. That is what we're trying to explain, that morphology could be used to classify organisms into the same group. So once we all have face, we all feed our young with milk. Once we all give birth alive, once we all do this and do that, have a well developed brain with its internal structure, then we say, let's keep them at a classic area. Then we call them mammals. So we look at both external, what we can see, and what we can see outside. Then that helps us to say that, okay, based on their morphological appearances, let's classify them into a single group. There are some other hands that have been shown. If your hand is up, kindly let me. I think Ade, your hand is up. Ade, talk to us. Your hand is up. Ade, Jacqueline, from
So what I wanted to add to the morphology is that in biology it looks at the physical features of organisms, like the shape of leaves, arrangement of petals or structure of an animal's body parts.
very good. So that is morphology. That's morphology. So like the extend, looking at the superficially, the macroscopic view of it. When we are going deeper into it, that becomes anatomy. So anatomy, we are looking at the situation and economy of those, like where it is and even a little bit of its function will grow over there. Then we zoom into physiology. Thank you very much, our sister. Yeah, animal, but your hand is still up. If it's a question you can bring, here's an insight you want to provide, can you do so for us? Then we move on to the next aspect of the lesson.
Selfish wanted to ask, what's the difference between domain and kingdom?
Very good, very good. We will talk about that. Thank you very much. I will explain very shortly. Harold also button. I think your hand is up.
Say, can I talk about the physiology now or?
Okay. Since you're on the line, talk about it. After what you will say, then I'll explain something to our sister that asked about domain and the kingdom. Then yesterday I showed a slide of it. So talk about physiology, then I'll explain it.
Okay, so with the physiology, it talks about organism functions. Using the functions of the organism to group them, and so we can have their mode of nutrition, their growth, their respiration, their excretion, their reproduction, and so on. So if we take the mode of nutrition, for instance, plants they undergo photosynthesis, and then animals we ingest the food. So with this we are able to classify. So am I correct or?
Oh yeah. You're on point. In fact, I'm joining your point. I'm also getting some point saying it.
And then with the respiration, how they're breathing. With some of the organisms, they breathe oxygen and others do not. So with the aerobic organisms, we have aerobic organisms and anaerobic organisms. So with the aerobic organism, they use oxygen. And the anaerobic organisms, they can survive without oxygen. And then excretion too, that's a removal of matter. So with mammals, we excrete urea, that's urine, and then feces. But for birds, they excrete uric acid. Theirs is much more acidic than us. I think I'm on point, right?
Yeah.
And then the last one, reproduction.
Yeah.
So reproduction, birds, I don't know if some, but most of the birds lay eggs. And then with mammals, how do I even say it? Do they get pregnant or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Okay, thank you very much. You've done impressive. So there are some 2, 3 things I want to make them perfect. And let me say very well correct. So she did very well. I did Jacqueline. I've seen her hand, but let me tackle this further. I will come to. There's a question I have to answer, so I've jotted it down to explain. So our sister did very well by looking at the physiology. So now we know the structures and the forms of the organism. How do they play? We know that we have the life processes. How do they perform these life processes? Or how does their parts and structures enable them to perform? Yes, we all fly. So to say, we have wings, we have legs. How do we use our legs to walk? We all have what we call it, let me say, a digestive system or the alimentary canal. How do we use that to perform the life process that we call feeding? So she talked about those that prepare their own food, like the plant photosynthetic organism. That was what our sister talked about. Very, very good. And we have them that ingest their food, and they are called holozoic. Even among us that ingest our food or the holozoic, that we are heterotrophic. Some are, let me say, they eat only herbs and they are called herbivores. Some eat only flesh and they are called carnivores. And some of us, we eat both, we are omnivores. Based on that, there's some a distinction feature among us. So even those that prepare their own food, some are photoautotroph, some are also chemoautotroph using chemicals like the sulfur bacteria. Then she also talk about some using us. But let me bring this point. I'll ask a question very shortly on this. When we're in primary, later you can answer this question. We were told that plant taking carbon dioxide and animals taking oxygen. Is that entirely true? That humans use respiration, we use oxygen, and plants use carbon dioxide for respiration. Is that the implication? Or there's a idea we have to get? I want to declare this that and we say that plant taking oxygen, sorry, animals taking oxygen and plant taking carbon dioxide. What is that carbon dioxide used for? Is it used for respiration or is it used for another thing? Salamati, your hand just came up. I'm sure it's because you want to answer this question. Let me call Salamati first. Okay.
Please, I want to explain the genetic.
Oh, no, please. Sorry, later I'll let you come in. There are a lot of questions we haven't answered, so please pardon me. If you can answer my question, so just be on the bed of answer. Once I call it out, raise up your hand and I'll call you back. So sorry for that, Salamatu. Alright, are you to answer my question or one of
Yes.
Okay, then go straight to it.
Okay, so say with the equation we have, carbon dioxide is used in photosynthesis, meaning they are used for their food. I don't know. Is that
Yeah, okay, so you plant taking carbon dioxide and you are telling us the carbon dioxide is for photosynthesis, but not for respiration.
as for I don't know for that one. I don't know for that one.
Okay, any other person. In fact, you've done well. At least you made it aware that they take in the carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. Once we finish, I'll just say it for the sake of time. Your answer to the question.
Sir, please, as for me, plants taking carbon dioxide to prepare their food. That means photosynthesis. They need carbon dioxide and sunlight and water so that they can bring out oxygen for us humans to inhale. That's all I know.
Okay, thank you very much. So, in fact, you really done well. So, when we were in primary, what our madam and teachers told us was correct. But it wasn't entirely so because at that time we couldn't comprehend complex biological terms and concepts. So, yes, plants taking carbon dioxide, but there are sometimes plants, or let me say most plants, taking oxygen. When they pick up the carbon dioxide, it's for the photosynthesis. That the carbon cycle is photosynthesis. That is why they take in carbon dioxide. But they need oxygen for respiration. But the good thing is, after undergoing photosynthesis, they produce oxygen. So they have more than enough. They keep them for themselves, which enters the Krebs cycle, or let me say, the glycolytic pathway and Krebs cycle for respiration, and the excess will come out. But in the night, most plants don't undergo photosynthesis because they are not like the C4. We have C4 plants, C3, and is it CAM plant. So I think the C3 plants are not able to keep enough oxygen in their cells for them to undergo photosynthesis in the night. So in the night, they will pick in more oxygen. But some of these plants are able to keep excess oxygen in their system, then they can, or excess carbon dioxide in their system, they undergo even in the night to get enough oxygen. So when plants take in carbon dioxide, it's for photosynthesis. After doing that, they have enough oxygen. They use some for themselves. Excess will come up. But in the night, they need to respire. If they don't have some stored in their system or they can't undergo photosynthesis in the night, they will now resort to atmospheric oxygen. So now what they give back to the environment, they pick some back into them. So that is one thing I want you to realize over there. Let me get another question. So yes, animals we give mammals give birth alive. Our eggs do come in the oviparous. Some also have their eggs in them. They are viviparous, and some also have their eggs hatched in them before it comes out, and they are oviparous. So these are the three types of the parity in us. But humans, we print it out. Sorry, we have it in our eggs in our. We get pregnant, as we said. Then later we give birth to our organisms alive. Now, someone asked a question about domain and kingdom. Yeah, we have five kingdoms. I realize that the five kingdoms, we have kingdom animalia. For the sake of time, I would of course someone to help us. We have the kingdom animalia, which you all know. Someone can type in the comment section. We have the kingdom animalia, the kingdom plantae, kingdom fungi, kingdom protoctista. So protoctista, for you to spell it, protoctista, or simple protista. Then we have kingdom prokaryote. These are the five kingdoms. I realize that we can also group them into three. Then the idea of domain came in. Even at the SS, I did just about kingdom. But my first time in university, we were learning, I think, by 111 or that was about classification of organisms. That's when I heard about domain for my very first time. So you are lucky even at the SS that has become so common that you know domain. So domain is like grouping the kingdoms into another groups, and that is based on the cell type. So we have three types of cell. That is the prokaryotes. Then we have the eukaryote and we have the arkaryote. So based on that, we have three domains. Some will say eubacteria, that is the true bacteria, and they are the prokaryotes. So based on prokaryotic cells, we have eubacteria, that is one domain. Then we have eukarya, that is eukaryotes. We are having the true cells, and that comprises the plantae, animalia, and fungi. Then we have the archaea, and the archaea is from the archaeote, that is the virus. They have their own domain, but we see that they don't also come under any of the five kingdoms. So we have the domain archaea, they will take their own path. Then we have the eukarya, that is the plants, fungi, and the animals. Then we have the last one we call the eubacteria, or you could have called it prokarya, but we didn't say prokarya, we say eubacteria, that is the prokaryotes of bacteria, their domain. So you have three domains as I've mentioned. Then based on that, the five kingdoms falls under these kingdoms. So, sorry, Protoctista is also under the kingdom, the eukarya. I didn't mention about Protoctista because they also have a cell membrane and all this. So, that is that. Are there Jacqueline Freeman? Your hand is up. If you want to answer a question or talk to us. Are there Jacqueline Freeman?
What I wanted to add up, Sister Harrison, is that the physiology, this process like digestion, respiration, circulation, and reproduction, basically how bodies or cells work and keep things running. And some keys are it. And I wanted to add, it also helps how cells work and communicate, how systems, the nervous or digestive system function, how different species functions compare, and also how functions changes with diseases.
All right, thank you very much. So all these are giving emphasis on criteria that we can use to classify organisms. And so physiology is how they perform their life, how their parts and structures function. So how do you eat? How is the food digested? You have a hand. How do you use the hand? You have an eye. How does it help you see? You have a nervous system. How do you respond to stimuli? So how the organism will perform its certain life processes and associated systems or cycles. That is how we can also classify them based on that. So we say animals don't have a very strong sensory system, and animals do. When it comes to excretory system, they don't have a very strong one. But we animals, we have a very strong excretion system because our toxic or waste substance could be poisonous when accumulated. But plants, some can indefinitely live with their waste and they still get going. So that is the physiology. Someone also wanted to talk. If that person ready, you can talk. Or we can talk about genetic information. So now we know we can use just their physical appearance to differentiate them. Aside that, we can use their physiology. That is the function and processes, how they undergo reproduction. So based on how you reproduce, you can classify. What about the genetic information? Do you bring your understanding on that? Then little by little. Yes,
Please say the genetic information is basically the instructions in our DNA and some RNA that tells cells how to do.
That tells us how.
That tells us how cells what to do, like how to make proteins, when to grow, and how to respond to the environment.
Okay, so they just give series of information to the cell for the cell to perform, or they control. Functional. Let's look at the superficial, what we see in the eye or the function. We can also check what is inbuilt, their blueprint. That is their DNA, as he said rightly, or their genes, what their DNA is coding with their genes chromosome for us to get to know. So their characteristics that comes out is because of their inherent genetic characteristics or genetic information over them. So we also look at their genes to differentiate or that help us to classify them. So based on the genetic information, that will go for the differences and similarities. We can classify organisms based on that. And this gives us a more accurate and detailed information because once the genes is there, the genes will call for the expression of some characteristics, which we call phenotype, and later when we do genetics properly, form 2 or form 3, normally form 3, you do appreciate this thing. So we can classify them based on their genetics. So for instance, now we do a lot of paternity tests. This one is the father, no, they're not the father. How can we do it? It's based on the genes. So humans and all humans will have some sequence in our genes which will differ from dogs. And all dogs, depending on their not about their trade or whatsoever, they have some series of codes that at least we have to get over there. Humans, we do have it, but the arrangement will change based on your race or your family lineage. So that is how we use genetic information to classify organisms into formal groups. Any other question or contribution? Then we look at ecological information. So now we've talked about morphology, what we do see, the external appearances. We can talk about physiology, the processes, genetic information, that is the DNA and the rest. Then we look at ecological. So we had example, parrots, we are doing pretty well today. Parrots, we had, I think,
The ecological information. With the ecological information, it's classify organisms by looking at where they live and how they live. Like, so we can take their habitat, and we all know habitat. With habitat, we have three: the aquatic, the terrestrial, and the arboreal. So if you see certain organisms, the algae or algae, fishes in water, you can say they are all aquatic lives or organisms. And the terrestrial ones, the ones on the land, so lions, and even with those ones, we can still classify them. But per the ecological, we will take the habitat where they live, and then their feeding relationship as well, the food chain. For example, when you take the ecosystem, we have producers, consumers, decomposers, and stuff. So with that one too, you can separate organisms that might look alike but live very differently. And their interactions. I think that one too. And it may be adaptation to environment. When you have a thick fur, you know you survive here, and then when you have skills, you know you have to be in the water. That's what I have.
okay, that is good. That is good. So that is ecological information. And we know ecology talks about the relationship between organism or its interaction with its environment. So looking at how it relates in the environment, its interaction, behavior, and characteristics in the environment, we can also do classify organisms. As you rightly said, their habitat. So, but now we largely group organisms into two habitats. The arboreal is still there, but now it is kept as a subsection of the terrestrial. The reason is, if you say arboreal, they live in the air, at least they will live on trees. And where is the tree found? Normally it will be on land, except some small trees that are found sparsely on the river. So at first we used to say three, but now some groups and advanced information want to keep them as two. Then the arboreal will form largely part of the terrestrial. So let's have that. So in case a book says two, the two will be terrestrial and the aquatic, and the arboreal will be found inside the terrestrial. All right. So we can use that to classify organisms. So the interactions, how they relate with each other and their environment can be used to classify them. Some organisms can live on their own. Some cells can also live in groups, which could be a colony or could be filamentous form. All these are how they live in the environment. And we can use that as a way of classifying. So we have aquatic habitats, and we have terrestrial habitat. And if we want to keep the arboreal separate, then we can have those like the birds, eagles, and the rest that live mostly, because you cannot live in the air indefinitely. They do come on land, so normally we keep them as two habitats. Then the last one is evolutionary relationship. So that's why normally they say that humans and the gorilla and the apes they are related. That is based on some people's ideology about classification. So we can use evolution record to also use it to also classify organisms. That crocodile and lizard, because of the scales and their structures, they look a little bit similar. So we can talk about something about the evolutionary trend, humans and the apes and the monkeys. Now the tiger, we have this animal, the wild fox, and I think the dog and the wild also river. So they look, the fox and the dog. You see that they look very, very similar. So evolutionary strength, we can keep them together. Then we have the Gallus and the Gallus domestica. So you see, they look very, very the same, similar, the same. But one will be mostly in the house, and some people in the domestica. The leopard terra will be there as the lion, and we have the dog here that cannabis and something, canis, of course, is the actual food name. So we look at it. So all these organisms, they have their evolutionary trend, looking at how they met. Then later there was a divergence in them, and say that only based on their ancestors we can group them as one organism. So that is the evolutionary relationship that we can use to classify organisms based on a common ancestry. So some do say that humans and the apes are from a common ancestor. So based on this type of classification, we can classify humans and the apes as a group. Any other question or contribution before we move on? We have 15 minutes to the end of our 9 p.m. time limit. A question or contribution can bring it on board. We couldn't finish what I wanted us to do today, but at least we've done pretty well to continue. If there's a question, you can raise up your hand, then you talk to us. Alright, so we have forms of classification. We have looked at what we look at the morphology, the physiology. We can also talk about the ecological information, genetics, and the evolutionary relationship. Now we have forms of classification. This is what our main man, Carolus Linnaeus, brought. And hierarchical, from the word hierarchy. So he gave us some arrangement based on the superior or the highest order to the lowest order. So that is what normally we do in our time. Sorry. So that was what Carolus Linnaeus brought. And this one, organisms are classified based on orders from a broader group to a smaller group. That is from the kingdom through the phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. So from a larger hierarchy to the lower form. That is what Carolus Linnaeus brought, his system of classification. And that is what normally we do use broadly. So that is his system. And that's what we use now. So we have the kingdom, phylum, division, order. Then we can also talk about the class, order, family, genus of the species. Then we have the second one that we call cladistics. But I'm sure for this one we do understand. These three will be what we are new to. So I will explain them all together. If there are questions, you can do ask. But just open up your ears, follow through with me, and I bet you do understand. So hierarchical, so in order. The larger, then we come to the second largest, the third largest. That is how this was. So it was like an organized way of grouping organisms. That's the perfect one we have for now. And I think that is why we will have till eternity. Because as at now, over 300 years advancing technology, we just build up on what Carolus Linnaeus did. I'm not sure we can entirely do what we get. We just build up on it. We so like a foundation, we build up on it. So we have what we call a cladistic. Now pay attention. We call something clay. Sorry, I don't have an image to show you. but it's like okay, it's also like a clade or a cladogram that look like an arrangement of organisms. So this type of classification is based on evolutionary relationship and put organisms into groups based on their shared characteristics. So we form something like a clade or a ladder, whereby we group organisms based on their evolutionary. So like their great great grandfathers or their their parents that gave birth to them, you look at their features and characteristics. If we see any similarity, we can keep them under the characteristics. So here is about evolutionary relationship. Then we put organisms into taxonomic class. Example could be the birds and what we call this organism, the birds and the dinosaur. I don't know whether they really existed, and the reptiles. You see, like birds have scales, and this organism, the reptiles also have scales around their body. So you see, they have a common feature. So based on that, they can keep them in one clade because they have scales. But humans cannot be there because humans we don't have scales. So like the class best. Oh, so sorry, Steven. Yeah, my son yesterday night I was a lot out of data, so I couldn't have a sensible meeting with you. So it's not easy. I never realized this thing takes a lot of data. So guys, we are doing very well until I bought the 3 CDs twice and 3 times, and it couldn't take me through 1 hour meeting with you guys. So okay, stay and let. So if you are here, let's hang in very soon. 10 minutes time to end the lesson. Then so that is the clade or cladistic. We find what we call a clade or a cladogram that looks like maybe like a family tree based on our shared relationship. So example could be the scale that we have in reptiles and also in birds. Then we have the phylogenetic. It's also like the family tree, but this one look like genetics. So the cladistic one, they are all like family tree, linking them. So maybe Antiochosia, then we have like 5 people over there. Then we come down, we group them together, maybe based on the shape. If we have the shape to be circular, so watermelon, orange, tomato will be at one side. Then we look at them like grapes, and we can talk about maybe berries and the rest. They will be at one side because they are multiple fruit. So that is how we do a banana, plantain. They will be in one side because they all look that the same shape and size. So that is how we can keep them under the cladistic. So the cladistic is just about evolution, what we do see. But the phylogenetic is like a family tree looking at genetics. So like we will do a DNA check of me, of my parents, we keep them together. Then we come to my external family. So my uncle and his other parents will also be on one. His family will be at one side. Then maybe an aunt will have his at one side. Then my great grandfather will have their own level. So the phylogenetic one, we are classifying organisms based on their molecular data or in simple terms, maybe their DNA, their genetic information. So it's like a family tree. But the cladistic use a clade, which specifically focus on the external features, evolutionary. But the phylogenetic refers to molecular data to reconstruct evolution. So this one is looking at the physical characteristics, and the phylogeny is looking at the family tree based on the molecular or DNA genetic information. So they look similar, just the same, but how we approach or we group them, the basis makes them different. Cladistic is like external features, then phylogeny is like what is found inside. So example could be humans and chimps. So though we have almost everything, but when we take our DNA strands and that of them, they differ. Humans to human will be very, very similar than a human to a chimpanzee. And some can say humans are very, very highly related to maybe the chimpanzee than the monkey, or maybe more to the ape because of these characteristics or phylogenetic classification. Then we have the very last one that we call numerical. So this numerical, we are using quantitative data, and the bottom line is we are not using one characteristics, but we will do a set and run on them. Like for instance, we are all round. We don't have a square inside of us. We don't have multiple cells. we all eat through our mouth, we ingest our food. So we have about tens of thousands, oh sorry, that's still mine. We have 10 or maybe 500 or maybe two characteristics. So we are placed in one group because we share a lot of characteristics. For instance, we share about 30 characteristics. Then let's keep them under this place. If they share 40, let's keep them under a smaller group. If they share only 5, keep them at the top. So under the numerical classification, we run a data, we analyze the data. Oh, we realize that, let me use this example, like the cockroach and the butterfly, though they are all insects, their characteristics will be 50. But the moth and the butterfly, since they are very close, their shared characteristics may be 50. So then, since they are 30, let's keep them at 23. In this one, they have 100 shared characteristics. They look just the same. Let's keep them at level 10 based on how we classify them. So the numerical classification look at quantitative data. How many characteristics do they have in common? Based on that, we can group them in a respective group. Let me read something here. So the numerical classification uses quantitative data such as measurements and statistical analysis to classify organisms based on their similarities. So they just run analysis statistics on them. If they have a lot of correlations, then let's keep them together. If they have a lot of features that are the same, then we keep them together. So when we group organisms based on their flowers, like we group plants based on the shape of their flowers, is it an overlay? Is it this type of flower? Is it that and that? That goes for the example of numerical data being used to classify organisms. So we have the hierarchical in order, cladistic like a family tree, we have a click of cladogram, external features. Then we have the phylogenetic tree, like we have a father and mother here. Then we come down, we go down. That one we are using DNA or their genetic material. Then numerical is just using data or analysis on the computer to check the number of shared characteristics that they have, and that could be to classify them. So that is what I want to explain. Tomorrow, Sunday, God willing, we will look at this aspect. Someone asked about the domains. It was way ahead of us. At least for the purpose of the day, I explained to you. Later, we will do understand them. If there's any question, you can please ask. If you have a question, you can ask. If you have a question, you can ask very soon. We will end the meeting. It's almost 9 o'clock. So thank you very much for appreciating. I think for you. The hand is up. Let me check. So I'm actually okay. Whose hand you raised? Okay, you're right there. I get notification that the hand is up. If you raise your hand, please talk to us. I haven't seen the first raise. Alright, it means you all do understand. If there's any other question, we have just 2 minutes. Any other question that you want to ask, you can ask. Exactly 9 o'clock, we will be done. Okay, yeah, I just came again. If you have a question, you can ask. I'm waiting for the next 20 seconds. If nothing happens, I'll continue. Alright, so thank you very, very much for joining tonight's meeting. I will encourage you to continue. The document has been given to you, so by now you should have known a lot of things. So keep on reading. Let's prepare for our next meeting on Sunday, where we will talk about this. Let me show it to you. So we are done with the classification. We will talk about the major ranks and taxa. Then before that, we will look at this aspect of subsection. That is the classification, forms of classification. We are done with that. Let's finish. We will look at natural and artificial classification and the features that we will talk about over there. Then we will look at the major ranks and hierarchical, whereby we talk about domain and kingdom. We talk about the phylum and the various taxa. Then we will look at amoeba proteus. So latest by next week Tuesday, we'll start talking about the living organisms and you will enjoy them a lot. So we'll talk about behavior, how it moves and feed and some other organisms. So thanks for joining. Have a very good night. Keep on studying. So previous lesson have been posted on the YouTube. If you haven't done the subscription, kindly do so. Consider doing so. Then you go there, you study at your own free time. Okay, I'm very grateful for you too. So God will bless you. Have a nice good night. Bye to you all.